Welcome back, listeners, to the BizPlan podcast. Now, this is the space, as you all know, where business goals and real life actually talk to each other. And as always, I'm your host, Sarah. And today we are talking about something that may sound simple on a code card, but it feels messy in real life. Guess what? Success. Now, most of us told you work hard, stay focused, grind. Then one day you wake up exhausted and still not feeling successful enough. Or you hit the goals, yet you still feel empty. So, what are we really chasing? Is it achievements or is it alignment? Listeners, my guest today has been sitting in the front row of that question for more than 20 years. Now, Michael T. Brown is a licensed professional counselor and also the principal of Brown's Leadership Consulting. He has spent 2 decades empowering individuals, families, businesses, and communities. He has also trained resilience educators with Why Try, worked with the DC Office of the Attorney General on violence interruption, and he has written 2 books, Born to Achieve and A Beautiful Challenge. And listeners, what I love about his journey is that he does not just talk about success from the stage. He has sat with people in crisis, in classrooms, in boardrooms, in communities where success is not a buzzword, it is a survival. So today we are going to strip success of its Instagram filter or the TikTok hashtags and whatever. We will talk about achievement, pressure, community, and what it actually takes to build a life that feels worth waking up to. Michael, welcome to this plan, and I'm really, really glad you are here with us.
Donna, thank you for having me. I'm very pleased to be with you.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Michael, this is really, really amazing because, yes, it is very easy to um, maybe, share something on social media or just print something on a quote card or a poster and just put it on the wall writing about success. But um, when you look at your work with individuals and communities alike, how do you personally define success today? Like not the textbook version,
Yeah.
but your version.
Well, thank you for having me, and I appreciate what you're doing through this platform, educating, your listeners. When I think of success, 2 words really stand out. One is service, and the other is leadership. I think a life of service when we not just don't think about what we can get, but what we can give. In many ways, success, from my perspective, is about adding value to others. And that's what I think is at the core of leadership as well. One of my favorite definitions of leadership is that leadership is influence. And that's good news, right? The idea that all of us can influence others in a positive way, whether that's, you know, carrying a lofty title or whether it's carrying a towel of service, showing up, figuring out, right, how we can add value to others. Because often when we'll add value to others and serve others,
Mm.
success for us personally flows from that. You think a great business, right, adds value to customers. They're serving others. And as a result, that business tends to flourish and thrive when they're meeting a need. So when I think of success, I think about that journey towards service and leadership, adding value to others.
That is such a beautiful. It's such a beautiful definition. I think, um, you know, also this one particular question comes to my mind. Like, um, if you think about the people you serve,
Yeah.
where do you see, Michael, this definition clashing with what society has been telling them success should look like? People would define that I'll achieve this goal, I'll earn this much money, I'll have a big house, a car, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Uh, the achievements, the accolades, material success, all those things are great. It's nice to have those things. It's nice to be comfortable and be able to do the things that we like to do and serve others. But in many ways, I think those are a byproduct of showing up and doing the work. It's interesting, success in many ways cannot be measured in bank accounts or in square footage. But in many ways, I believe success is measured with how much value we can add to others. And as a result, if we'll add value to others, things tend to flow back to us. So
Mm.
it's okay to have things. I think the key is to make sure that things don't have us.
Hmm. Agreed. I absolutely agree with that. One point that you mentioned is influencing others. Now, in today's day and age, Michael, have you seen different interpretations of that with the people or the people you work with or interact with?
Can you repeat that question, please?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So one point that you mentioned is like, success is like how you influence the
Yeah.
people. So in today's day and age, I mean, this word can have multiple, meanings,
Right.
definitions. How do you interpret that, or in terms of the interactions that you have had with the people you have worked with, or what you have observed or experienced?
Yeah, it's interesting when we show up to serve others, whether with me in therapy, dealing with someone who may be dealing with, uh, difficulties in their life or may have a mental health challenge or relationship challenge. You know,
Mhm.
oftentimes if we'll show up with empty hands, realizing that we're in need, and if we can get over the idea that it's not okay to be in need, because it is okay to be in need, particularly when we know that once that need is filled, we can then better serve others. So it's interesting. I show up to serve others, but I posture myself as a teacher and as a student. There's a spiritual teaching that says, iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. So when we show up trying to sharpen someone else's tool, it's interesting. Our tool gets sharpened as well. I would imagine, right? Using this platform, obviously you
Yeah.
show up to give others a platform, but you gain, the listeners gain when we sit down to converse. So I think it's so important that as individuals, we realize we have something to give, and it's
Mm.
okay to also be able to receive as well. I've heard it put this way: we should be um, generous givers and gracious recipients.
Wow. No, that is really, really beautiful. And I also really love the fact that, we should be teacher, but then we also should be a student, a good teacher and a good student.
That's
Yes,
great.
yes.
Yeah.
And I also think that, now there can be um, interpretations around this idea or this definition of success that, okay, not materialistic, but then I also think, Michael, that it's a nuanced one because, yes, at the end of the day, we need to pay our bills. We need to
Yeah.
have, earn so that we can have a good life or we can provide a good life.
Okay.
But then at the same time, I think that shouldn't be the only focus here, not at the cost of maybe our health, our family,
Yeah.
our loved ones. So, yeah.
Oh, so well said. I think about that's a really beautiful analogy you used there. And as you were sharing that, I had kind of a visual there. Imagine people, whatever people believe spiritually, right? Let's say
Mhm.
if someone believes in the afterlife or they believe in heaven or paradise, whatever their view is. Imagine sitting across from people and them saying, "You helped me get here
Mm,
because you showed up." Because
mhm.
you did a podcast and inspired someone around the world can say, "You know what? I took nuggets from what it is that was conversed with, and it helped me live a better life." That's hard to measure in comparison to a car or a home or a nice, material object. Those things are great to have. But I think a greater reward, right, is being able to see people. And many particularly think about the technology we use, right? Some faces we'll never be able to see can
No.
say you added value. And, I think that's pretty meaningful and substantial. So in many ways, success is about substance. It's about meaning. It's about value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. So let's talk about your book, Michael, Born to Achieve.
Yes, ma'am.
Um, in a world that already pushes people to constantly achieve, how do you talk about ambition without accidentally feeling burnout? Feeding burnout. My bad.
No, no, no. Very well said. I think I like using the analogy, the difference, the finding the right balance between ambition and gratitude. So if you can imagine on one hand, ambition says, I want more. There's
Mm,
more to accomplish. There's more to achieve. There's more to attain. And that fire really matters. It's important to be ambitious. It's important to be ambitious with the right motives, the right
mm,
intentions, right? Is it self-ambition? Which has its place, right? We may all have a certain amount of ego or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, if the intentions of our ambition are healthy and positive and add value to others, that's a good thing. We should keep that fire burning. Realize, right, there's always more to accomplish. There's more lives to reach. There's more people to impact. What do I need to do to continue to keep that flame burning and add value to others? Then on the other side, there's gratitude. Gratitude says, regardless to what I do next, let me be thankful for what I already have.
mm,
To be appreciative, to be grateful for what we've already accomplished, the blessings, the opportunities that we already have. They don't have to fight against each other. They should work together. Ambitious, I want to achieve more, accomplish more for the right reasons. Gratitude,
mm,
I'm thankful for what I already have. It's kind of like, being a parent. Imagine, right, a child coming and saying, hey, mom or dad, I want more. I want more. I need a new game, a new video game. I need a new pair of sneakers. And the parent saying, son or daughter, I can get you a new game, but did you tell me thank you for the games I already gave you?
mm.
Are you appreciative for the sneakers that you have now? Are you taking good care of them? Right, finding that right balance of, it's okay to want more, but never at the expense of not being grateful and thankful for what we already have.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is such an important point that you highlighted, Michael, because I think there is this generational shift that, I come from a generation which has seen the pre-technology and post-technology,
Yeah.
where we didn't have anything. We didn't have Zoom. We didn't have anything. I mean, it was like you had to go out to even get to watch a movie. You had to rent it, where you had to rent songs and stuff.
Payphones,
Now,
remember payphones?
yeah,
Oh,
payphones, exactly, exactly. But now everything, almost everything, is at our fingertips.
yeah.
But at the same time, I really feel lucky that I get to express my gratitude to whatever I have the access to.
Yeah.
So that is
No, that's good,
that's.
and it's so important, right, that we realize regardless to the technology and the technological advances which are so powerful that allow us, right, to be able to talk and encourage and inspire others, is
Mhm.
to realize that we may have different methods, but the mission in many ways is still the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, can, let's talk about uh, under pressure, because in your experiences, I mean, it involves working with violence interrupters, students, families who are actually under real pressure. So, Michael, when resources are limited and the stress is high, what does success principle actually look like in practice, not in theory? Is it like, I need to push myself to the extent, so that just I can uplift myself and my family?
Yeah.
um because let's just be real that there can be so many factors at a community level, at so many level, that that can actually,
Yeah.
I mean, push you to a darker side.
Yeah, and I think in many ways it starts with a roadmap, and I call that a mental map, mental mapping, understanding. to start the destination to well, where am I, right? GPS
Mm.
wise, where am I mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, right? And oftentimes in therapy, I meet people that are, experiencing some real challenges and have some real dilemmas. So we need to first understand their story. What have you gone through? Where are the resilient points that you've already shown? Part of my job is to just remind people of the resilience they've already shown, right? And
Yeah.
from there, we say, where do you want to be? What are your goals? What is it that you want to achieve? What is it that you want to accomplish? So where am I? Where do I want to go? And what do I need to do in order to get there? Are there triggers or traumas from our past that I need to go back and address or deal with
Mm.
or heal from? Sometimes that may be, getting into therapy and dealing with some of those traumas and those wounds. Now, we know we can't change what happened to us,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
we can change our perspective of what happened to us. We can get healthier coping skills. We can
Mhm.
channel that energy into something positive. We can't change what happened, but we can change our response to what happens. We can learn, we can grow, we can heal, we can forgive. Because in order to reach that goal, sometimes we got to go back and get some treatment. Sometimes we got to, like an athlete, right? They may need to go into the locker room and get their ankles wrapped again or get some treatment in order to get back out there and and fight the good fight of faith, if you will. And we all may have there's an expression in the United States, right? To every life, some rain must fall. We
Wow.
all are going to experience adversity. We all are going to experience challenges. And we can harness the the lessons from the adversity. What did I learn? How can I grow? How can I be better moving forward? And realizing that we don't have to do it alone. If you need help, it's okay to ask for help. And it's
Yeah.
okay to even ask as you're asking for help to still keep showing up and serving others.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes, Sana, we got to walk with a limp.
Yeah.
Yeah, where everything might not be all good, but we gotta still keep moving. And somebody's listening today, and they may be faced at that point in their life right now where they want to accomplish more, but they're limping or they got this struggle. Let's get help with the wound, but realize that we gotta get up and keep moving forward.
Wow. And do you get any kind of resistance or pushback from people, when you teach that in those environments?
You know, usually I wouldn't I don't look at it so much as pushback. What I realize sometimes is that individuals want to be successful. They want to get to
Mhm.
the next level. So it's not that they're pushing back on their goals. Sometimes the pushback comes from not having the skills or the tools
Mm.
or not being inspired or having allowing the anxiety or the depression or, you know, past defeats to overwhelm us.
Mm.
So most people, right, have goals they want to accomplish, they want to achieve, but sometimes we got to break through that thought pattern or the paradigm, if you will, that they've been running with, or the operating system that's been downloaded into them that's not getting them where they need to get. So what do we do? Sometimes we got to go in and deal with those intrusive thoughts. Deal with maybe the programming that someone else gave them, right? I was on a different interview earlier today, and we were talking about, this whole idea of, uh, am I running with someone else's blueprint?
Mm.
Is it your mom's blueprint? Is it your grandparents' blueprint? Is it something that someone put on you? Now that's okay as long as that blueprint lines up with you and your desire. Because
Exactly.
sometimes
Yeah.
our family members, can see things on us and can speak into that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, right, each person has to identify what are their goals? What makes them feel fulfilled? What do they feel called to do? And if we'll line up with the right calling, the right purpose, then we can do that heavy lifting of dealing with those barriers, dealing with the pain or the triggers or the programming that is not leading us in the right direction. So the support team, having people in our circle, having people in our lives that are encouragers, that can speak life into us, that can be patient with us when there is resistance to help us navigate it. Yeah.
Mm, mm. And I think um this is this is very clearly saying that, it's not the mindset that is, it's going to fix poverty.
Mm.
It's part of the system, because um success principles, if they do not work for the most pressured people in your organization or community, then, they are not principles, they're marketing. So it's not just fluff or, yeah, whatever.
No, it's not just fluff, you know. I call it my 4 Ps to success, and we talked about some of it. And you're asking great questions along these lines, right? How do we break through those barriers? I think we need to have the right purpose, the right, the right passion, understanding what it is that we're called to do, the
Mm-hmm.
right principles, the pillars that we stand on, the characters, the values that are going to help us be successful. We need to have the right plan of action, and then the right
Mm-hmm.
practices. And whether it's somebody who's in a community and sees things that need to change, or maybe somebody's listening right in a remote village somewhere in their environment, they see so much for themselves and for that community. Hey, never despise small beginnings. One
Yeah.
person with a made up mind can make a tremendous impact. If you got
Mhm.
the idea, if you got the dream, if you got the burning desire to make change, whether it's, combating poverty or dealing with, you know, health health challenges in an area. No, you might not have all the answers, but the fact that you have a dream and you want to change things, that's proof that you need to act on it.
Yeah.
And it's okay to ask for help in that journey. But oftentimes people come along and help when they see you helping yourself. So start somewhere,
Mhm.
get started. And
It's yeah.
who knows where that start may take you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Um, okay, and before we wrap up, I think this is a very, very important question, which I think is so much relevant right now, Michael. Like, you talk a lot about empowering communities. From your experience, what role does community play in whether someone's success is sustainable or fragile?
It is considerable. No, there's an African proverb that says it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes, yeah.
And that speaks to the community. When you think about certain communities, right, that it's cultural that if there's a need or a lack, you step up and you try to fill that need or that lack. If there's a child without, right, we need to help that child get what they need in order to be successful. If a family member gets sick or someone passes away, right? Hopefully there's the social net that can help come in and realize that that life matters. Every life matters. And we can be a part of that community to receive when needed, but it's so important to give back into that community to see the change, right? As Mahatma Gandhi would say, that you hope to see in others. Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, this is huge, because people often say that these success stories, they're often told like, this solo superhero movies,
Mm.
one main character. But I think what you have said is says that it is always co-created,
That's
by mentors, maybe sometimes your family members or peers, or people who challenge us and support
That's
us
right.
as well.
That's right. And our ancestors and the forerunners, the pioneers, in many ways, right? We stand on the shoulders of giants
Mm.
because they did, we can. So those who laid the blueprint, those we can learn from, those who may have done it without the resources that we have or without a tremendous fanfare, right? We're able to benefit. Just think about it. Here I am in the United States, you're in India, and we're using a platform that we had nothing to do with creating,
Yeah.
right? We're direct beneficiaries, right, of work that other people have done. And the good news is that, right, we get to make an impact ourselves and leave a legacy and
That-
add value to the lives of others. Yeah.
Exactly. Beautiful, beautiful. Michael, before we wrap this very, very powerful conversation, I'm very sure listeners would be so much eager to connect with you and explore more about the success principles and your books. So, what would be the best medium to connect with you?
Yeah, there's several ways they can reach out. I'm over on X, formerly known as Twitter, at mtbrown98. They can also contact me, by doing a Google search, my name, Michael T. Brown, or my website, brownsleadership.com. And if somebody wants to email me directly, they can email me directly. I'd be open to that at email@brownsleadership.com. That's email@brownsleadership.com.
Super, super. Listeners, I'll have all these videos and the links in the show notes. So just refer to them along with this episode on whichever platform you listen to your podcast to. And you know, we heard we heard today that success is not a one-line mantra. It is how your values show up when life is stressful, when it challenges you. It is how you treat people when you have power. It is whether your achievements line up with the story you want your life to tell. Michael, thank you so much for this really grounding and powerful conversation. Thank
So
you.
thank you for having me, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with the listeners and keep up the good work you're doing.
Thank you so much. And Michael, I must also appreciate the work that you are doing with families, individuals, organizations, communities, because it is so much needed right now.
Thank you. God bless.
And to all the listeners, thank you for devoting your time to listen to this episode on the Discipline Podcast. If this conversation hit a nerve for you, share it with someone who is in the middle of grinding for their goals. And maybe they need a more human definition of success. I'm Sana. This is Biz Blend. And until then, thank you so much.